Howdy there, folks. Welcome into today's video. Today we are just reacting to one in this one here today, folks. AI stocks. We're going to speak about a bunch of different AI stocks, and I thought this was kind of perfect video for me to kind of share my perspective on a ton of different AI stocks that they bring to the table here. This gentleman brings to the table to kind of play in the super cycle. And, you know, it's a very interesting time in regards to all this AI excitement. And I mean, even this interview here, okay, you can hear the woman just describing basically what's going on with AI as just hype, you know, all this hype. And it's definitely like very similar commentary I've heard on like CNBC. Every time they refer to it, they're talking about bubble, hype, all these like, you know, very negative terms, to be quite frank. These are very negative terms to, you know, be calling, you know, these stocks that are involved in this. And that's a very like defensive posture to take, right? And that's not usually when there's something exciting going on, they're usually not, you know, right away as soon as it's happening, calling it hype and bubble. But that's what they're doing. And it is interesting that mainstream media has basically chosen to just call this hype and bubble and all this stuff when it's just, they don't usually do that. So it's very fascinating when it comes to this AI thing, because I can tell you, they certainly weren't doing all that in 2021, the way they did describe things, right? But now all of a sudden this comes along and it's hype, it's bubble and all these sorts of commentary, and it's funny to kind of listen to. And so anyways, guys, appreciate you joining me. Thanks for being subscribed, folks, in Arizona here at the moment. So thanks so much for joining me, folks. And yeah, let's get into this.
Tech Nvidia has been one of the clear winners this year. Shares surging more than 160% since the start of the year, up 25% in just the last 5 days. Well, earlier this week.
Also, do remember, Nvidia stock price fell 70%, okay? It fell 70%. So sometimes when you hear, you know, oh, this stock's up so much, just remember, it's not like Nvidia barely just broke through its all-time high. Think about that for a moment. It barely just broke through its all-time high very recently. Okay, it's not like this stock has exploded to some, you know, insane high, like, oh, it's up 1,000% from where it was a year ago or something like that. It's not like
Nvidia reached a major milestone, briefly joining the $1 trillion valuation club. We'll hear with more on how to play the AI hype. We want to bring in
AI
Adam
hype.
Johnson, portfolio manager.
Listen to that commentary. How to play the AI hype. You know, it's frustrating because when you hear that, like, there's a lot of people that are going to hear that, oh, how to play the AI hype, and it's basically like, what's going to happen to you, and a psychologist could tell you what's going to happen to you essentially, okay, is your brain's going to hear that, and subconsciously you're going to automatically think like, oh, this is bad, right? Because as a stock market, what are you taught when you get in the stock market? Don't fall into the hype and excitement and those sorts of things, right? And for them to just, you know, keep categorizing as hype, bubble, these sorts of terms, it puts like this subconscious like negative thing in your head that says stay away from all that, stay away from all those opportunities. And it's like I said, they don't usually take this stance. So the fact that they've taken the stance is strange. It's extremely strange.
Bullseye American Ingenuity Fund. Adam, it's great to see you here. So before we get into those specific plays, as a portfolio manager, how are you looking at this hype in AI? Is it warranted?
Listen to that. She went and she called it hype twice. Not once, twice. This isn't like this is an accident. She keeps calling it hype, and this is, you could watch CNBC. It's the same exact thing. It's hype. It's bubble. Like, why are you describing it as that? These are such negative terms.
Did you say the hype in AI? Because I think it's actually the reality of AI. And if you listen to what management said earlier this week, it's actually a 10-year cycle, and I'm even going to go so far as to call it a super cycle. Let me put it to you this way, Shauna. Every computer that's out there, including this guy right here, the iPhone, it's basically too slow. It's not powerful enough, because I think what's going to happen is that artificial intelligence is going to become so synonymous with the way we operate, the way we think about the world around us, that what we're going to find is that we need more powerful chips. We're going to need new computers. That creates a replacement cycle that isn't just about the hype today and where's the stock going over the next week or two, but it's actually about sustained demand. It's why the company guided up and said, we're going to have $11 billion of revenue this quarter. And to put that in perspective, back in 2020, they had $11 billion in revenues for the whole year. So in just
Boom, right there. That hits the nail on the head. You know what? Let me drop a gem real quick here, okay? If you want to know what's the difference between hype and reality, okay? Hype is when you don't have anything substantial backing something in the financial markets in terms of a dollar amount, okay? So let's say, for instance, all these companies had nothing to back it in terms of dollars, okay? They weren't guiding for any higher numbers. There wasn't anything like that, okay? That's a whole different scenario than you have a company that was expected to grow 6% this upcoming quarter, and they say, actually, we're going to grow 60%, okay? That's no longer hype. That is now reality, because now we're talking about real dollars that are going to pour in a massive, massive way, okay? So no longer is it just some hype, excitement type thing, okay? And so I think that's very important to understand. You could have said in 2008, wow, look at all this hype around these smartphone things. Oh my gosh, it's just a bunch of hype bubble. Look at all these semiconductor companies that people are starting to want to talk about and invest in. Oh, it's just at the end of the day, it was real. It was reality. It was a new game change, right? And you could go through so many technology advances and see that. When the numbers are there, it's no longer hype. It is reality, folks, okay? That's a big difference between some crypto that no one ever heard of and no one cares about and no one's actually doing anything with it, right? Like, we're in 2021 and they buy that and that's hype. Okay, that's a whole different ballgame. When we're talking about real money, billions of dollars of real money, this is a whole different game.
They've effectively quadrupled the amount of money that's coming in the door, and I think that's just the beginning. So no, I don't think it's hype. I think it's actually the beginning of a super cycle.
So Adam, Diane here. Who else are the winners here? Obviously, Nvidia has this clear lead. They joined the $1 trillion club this week. Who else are the clear winners in this AI, especially the generative AI space?
Yeah, well, Diane, there are not many. And that's in part why these names are running as hard as they are. I call it scarcity value. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you've got Nvidia. And the reason Nvidia is the play is that their chips are so fast, so much more powerful than the competition. The Nvidia chip is capable of 30 trillion calculations per second. That's like a million 1 millions 30 times. It's kind of hard to fathom, right? No other chip maker can come even close. That's why NVIDIA is the proxy for artificial intelligence. But to your question, some of the software providers, there's C3.ai, which was founded by Tom Siebel. You may remember Siebel Systems back in the 90s. That's a company that actually helps companies design artificial intelligence gathering and predictive systems that will look at an entire network. Your Delta Airlines.
So C3.ai, I know a lot of people that have very strong opinions on C3.ai, okay? I know some people personally that tell me C3.ai is a bunch of crap. And they basically tell me, their product is nothing. And it's, basically just kind of like fake AI, I guess you can say, okay? And they're not believers in what they got going on as far as their actual business model at all, okay? Personally, I've not gone down the rabbit hole enough to have a strong opinion, positive or negative, okay? I haven't seen anything with the company that makes me say, I got to go buy this one, and this is, huge, and this is going to be massive. I haven't seen anything yet that gets me passionately feeling like this is, that company's, a fraud, and, it's just a bunch of crap, okay? So for me, I don't really feel like it either way, but do keep in mind, some people that I can tell you are much more what I would call, they have a much bigger expertise in these sorts of companies, what they're up to, what they're doing. What I've heard from them is C3.ai is not it, okay, at all, okay? That's their perspective, not my perspective, but do keep that in mind, folks, okay? And I know some people that know a lot more than I do about the AI space, I can tell you that.
To try to figure out how to optimize passengers, flights, crew, everything else.
And no disrespect, but they know a lot more than this gentleman or anybody you know as well. So take that for what it is.
Into an AI-based program, and it starts to look at the world differently and a lot more capably than we can at 30 trillion calculations per second. So C3.ai is one. Another that's been getting a lot of attention, although it's kind of funny because it's been so hated, is Palantir. By the way, the ticker on the first one is AI. Palantir is PLTR. Palantir was founded by Peter Thiel, maybe the most hated man in Silicon Valley, public enemy number one. He's very conservative, so he doesn't jibe with the whole ethos out in Silicon Valley. The government is Palantir's biggest customer at about 55% of revenues. And the other thing that Palantir does, which isn't great from my perspective as an analyst and a stock picker, is that while they're very good at pitching themselves to companies and winning the business, they go in with their team of AI scientists. They work for 9 months and then they leave. So they work so hard to get the customer, they make money for 9 months, and then they leave, and they don't really get that much in terms of subscriptions on the back end. So those are the reasons.
I'm not really sure where that man's going with that. I mean, Palantir's contracts are usually for, years in many cases in regards to Palantir in signing a company. So I'm not sure exactly where he was going with that one. So yeah.
Palantir hasn't it hasn't gotten the vote from Wall Street that some of these other companies have. That said, Palantir was at $7 for months and months. It's now up to 14 or 15 in like a week. So, there's a gold rush for these handful of names. There are not many of them.
Adam, what about the larger tech names? Obviously, Microsoft and.
Before we get to some more AI stocks here, I don't know if you guys heard what Karp said in that latest interview, which was, if I recall, that was a Bloomberg interview I reacted to here on the Reaction channel, right? Karp said that basically they're getting as many inbound calls in a month that they would usually get in a year. Something like that. Like that's another thing where it's like, how's it just hype when there's that many companies that are looking for these sorts of products, right? That's overwhelming demand.
Google, really the focal point when it comes to.
Which overwhelming demand adds up to real dollars. When it adds up to real dollars, that takes it from hype to now this is reality. When the dollars start flowing, that's reality then.
Really, but Microsoft, when it comes to Chat GPT, how much investment, interest do you have in those two names, given the fact that they are obviously far from those more pure plays that you were just talking about?
Well, I'm long them all because they're wonderful companies. But to your question, Shauna, no, they're not pure plays. They're not anywhere close. I mean, yes, Google is developing some in-house artificial intelligence. I mean, of course, they'd be crazy not to. Just as Microsoft has backed OpenAI, the company that created ChatGPT. But remember, I mean, even ChatGPT, which everybody's talking about, isn't making any kind of money to speak of at all. I mean, they gave the thing away for free last November, and now they're talking about business models where, you can, pay $20 a month or something. That doesn't accomplish a whole lot when you're talking about a company with tens of billions in revenue.
So, yeah, maybe the dollar amount's not big for Microsoft, but I can tell you it's still substantial amounts of money ChatGPT is bringing in. When you look at how many paid users now they have, I mean, it's not like it's a small dollar amount. It's just maybe small relative to Microsoft, right? And that's the problem with these massive companies is they get so big that even when they launch new businesses, it doesn't add up to a ton. And like Apple cannot launch a huge new product, and at the end of the day, it's not going to make much of a dent in terms of their revenue and profitability just because their numbers are so big now at this point in time.
That Microsoft is an AI company is I think it's wishful. But no, I'm long Google for search. I'm long Microsoft because it has effectively become the backbone of the cloud, computing in the cloud. And yes, each of them has an AI practice. Each of them has an evolving AI approach. Frankly, so does Amazon, as you might expect, which is how they figure out how to sell us stuff. But if you want pure AI, I'm telling you, it's really hard to do.
AWS is going to benefit in an epic way from this AI boom that we're likely going to go on for many, many years in a substantial way. I mean, I haven't even quantified how big of a dollar amount it is yet for AWS, but I can tell you it's a very large dollar amount. And listen to last conference call with Andy Jassy. Listen to the next conference call they're going to have in about 2 months from now, and I think you'll get a lot more clarity. It's a huge opportunity for AWS.
Ticker AI, which is CA3. You've got Palantir, the most run by the most hated man in Silicon Valley, and you got Nvidia, which makes chips, which powers AI, but it isn't AI per se. Again, it's a really small universe, and that's why all these companies are up so much. Everyone's jamming into these names and pushing them up.
All right, and I wonder if some of that's a little bit of that is FOMO. And so you mentioned C3 AI, OpenAI, C3 AI in particular. That stock taking a hit today amid some questions about its accounting, but it has AI in its name. What do you think that we can expect to see with regard to companies trying to get in the space or pivot, even how they brand themselves? We saw that before with Facebook becoming with Meta. Do you expect to see some of that in this space? And is that even a good idea?
Yeah, we've kind of seen this movie before, and it's funny how it seems to repeat about every 10 years. I mean, you mentioned Facebook that decided it was going to pivot to Meta and the metaverse. That didn't work out quite as planned. Though I am long it. I bought it in the hole, and so far so good. Square, I've actually been buying, and that rebranded as Block in order to capitalize on the blockchain. But admittedly, that stock is down 60, 70%. If you remember back in the 2000s, everyone wanted to be a .com. And if you had...
That's true. By the way, this stock I like more than Square. You know what it is in that space. It is PayPal, okay? Definitely like PayPal a lot more than Square for the next, many years.
Pets.com.
Not that I think Square's going to do bad. It's just I'm a much bigger believer in what PayPal's got going on between Braintree, PayPal, and Venmo.
That was the poster child. So that's why I say, we've sort of seen this movie before where something comes along and everyone says, oh, yeah, we should do that. I mean, look at the SPAC boom, right? 2 to 3 years ago, everyone said, oh, wow, if we really want to hit it big, we should create a SPAC. So there is that element to artificial intelligence, except that you actually have to come up with goods. You can't just create a website and say, we're going to sell XYZ and we're going to call ourselves XYZ.com. You actually have to have the computing power. You have to have the software. And I think that sets a much higher bar for this artificial intelligence build out. And the other thing, this is going to take many years. So there are going to be some winners and losers. You're not going to be able to see very many companies IPO yet because that window hasn't opened. It's been very tough on Wall Street. You report on layoffs. I mean, Goldman is laying off more as of today, right? So the IPO window hasn't opened. When it does, maybe next September, you're, I think, going to see 3-4 names that will get a lot of attention, and they're all going to build themselves as the way to play AI. So stay tuned on that. In the meantime, just go buy Nvidia.
Nvidia. That's what everyone seems to be doing, at least over the last several months. Adam Johnson, great to have you. Thanks.
Yeah. So my thoughts are, in terms of some of the best artificial intelligence stocks. I mean, obviously Palantir comes to mind right away. Nvidia comes to mind right away. Okay. C3 AI, I don't know about that one. Okay. So we got Palantir, we got Nvidia. I think the most hidden one is Meta. Meta's been working on AI for years. Just, if you really follow this company, you listen to their conference calls, this is not something that's new for them, right? And why is it so important for Meta? Because at the end of the day, they, especially with how much video content matters to Meta now between Facebook and Instagram, it's very important that they are delivering an experience that keeps you watching, right? Like TikTok, right? And I think they're doing that in a very good way. They need to, have those AI running and basically giving you the content that you're going to engage with, that you want to actually stay on the platform, that you're going to share with your friends, that get them to come on Instagram or onto Facebook or whatever, right? Very, very important. And then also with any chat bots that they use either through Messenger or anything else, also very important for AI, right? And so I think Meta is one of the most hidden AI plays probably in the stock market, but that honestly, they could benefit as much, if not more than anybody. It's just they're not necessarily selling a direct AI-related product like Nvidia is, like Palantir is, right? But AI could benefit Meta just as much as it does Nvidia in Palantir. It's just they're going to make their money on the back end by you spending more time on those platforms, seeing more ads, right? By by businesses having a much better experience with using chatbots to convert to sales or customer questions to save them money. A lot of various things there. And so I think that's one of the hidden ones. Outside of that, I definitely like Amazon for many other reasons, but I think AI is going to be huge for AWS as well. So do keep that in mind, folks. I appreciate everybody joining me as always. Thanks so much. And if you want to apply for my private group, join us in there this week, then check out the pinned comment down there. That'll be to fill out an application down there. If you're looking to join my Patreon, you want to support my content, you enjoy the content on the channel, then check out the description area. That'll be to join on Patreon. You get to see the moves I'm making in the market, plus be part of that Discord chat over there. Much love as always, and have a great day.